Hey there, it's Coffee on the Porch with me and my dog Olaf. And you might hear some background noise, but I think we're going to make it through it anyway. I wanted to share something that I've been working on personally that relates to things that I hear clients say about the impossibility of changing careers or of having the life they want or having the career they want or having work that they enjoy, or at least work that's at least neutral or doesn't suck the soul out of them every time they go there. So I live in Alaska and it's fishing season, and I have been a fisher most of my adult life. I love fishing and I think it's really important to do it well and to handle and to care for it and be respectful, use the whole fish, take only what you need. I'm very much of that philosophy. And this year, my dip netting partner couldn't go. And dip netting here is a personal use fishery license that Alaska residents are allowed to have when we can go down with a big hoop and stand in the water in the ocean and catch fish. And we have a household limit for the year, and that's one way you can get your salmon allotment for the year as an Alaskan. The thing that was really giving me problems was the fact that I've never gone dip netting alone. And I really had it in my head where I was like, oh, I can't go. How am I going to get fish? Should I just buy fish? It's really expensive and I love fishing. I'm going to miss out on the experience. And the sort of community feeling that is there when you're on the beach with everybody else doing the same thing. And I was like, I guess it's not going to happen. I guess I just want to fish, but that's not really practical in my life. I eat a lot of fish. It's really good for all sorts of things. I use all of the pieces and parts and I make it into dog food. Plus, it's delicious. Then one day I thought, I should take my own medicine and do the thing that I tell people to do and just imagine, what if I could go alone? What if I'm wrong? Just what if I'm wrong about this? This is one of the phrases I want you to think about. What if I'm wrong about this? What if I'm wrong that I can't go and do the thing I want to do? For me, what if I'm wrong about going to dip net alone? Maybe it is possible for a person to go alone and dip net. So I just started playing around with it, and all of a sudden on YouTube, I saw this guy in a very difficult dip netting spot. He was out in Chitna hanging off a cliff. They tie themselves off to this cliff. It's super dangerous. And I thought, that is much more rigorous and adventurous than where I dip net. And this guy was dip netting alone, or at least it looked like he was alone. And, he got a really good catch. Granted, he is taller and stronger and younger and all of those things, but it did dispel the myth that a person cannot go dip net alone. I was like, okay, so it's possible for a person to go alone. And frankly, you are not really alone. These are very crowded places. Everybody is dip netting at the same time because it's a limited window of time when you can do this. And here in Alaska, we call it combat fishing, although dip netting isn't quite to the level of combat fishing that, say, king fishing is, but it's still really crowded. Fishing here can be a solitary, serene sport, but it's often just more like grocery shopping. So there I had one example of where I was wrong. I was like, okay, I've seen one person dip net alone. I'm just going to hang on to that thought. I'm going to hang on to the thought, what if I'm wrong about this? What if I'm wrong about the fact that I can't do this? What if it is possible? I wonder what that would look like. And I didn't start to go research or anything like that. I was just thinking, what if I could? I wonder what that would look like. And my brain started tootling around of like, well, I need the right vehicle. Do I have the right vehicle? I got to get all the gear. Do I have all the gear myself? Do I have all the pieces and parts I need to make this happen? Because everything in Alaska is logistics. And a lot of the big things that we do, like dip netting and hunting and, the big projects, it's often in a group. It's in a community setting. So everybody brings their part or their piece of the logistics. So you don't have to have the whole thing yourself. But this would require that I have all of the logistics figured out myself. And I looked around and I was like, yeah, after almost 20 years up here, I do have almost everything I need. I have nets, I have a cooler, my vehicle will work. Really, the only part I had never handled myself was picking the location. So I started looking at that, and it turns out it is not that difficult. I know how to read a map. I know how to read a tide table and things like that. And as I got into it, I was starting to let go of the disappointment of not being able to go and starting to see it more as a puzzle. And my brain thought, why not? Something good is going to come out of this either way. I'm either going to figure out parts of this, even if I don't get to go this year, the process is going to make me a better fisher in the future. And if I do go, even if I have to go slowly, because that's one thing I was worried about, how fast could I get all the fish in, get my limit in and then get them cleaned and on ice and things like that, because they start to degrade really quickly. And I came across different techniques, people who have done this alone, who show you shortcuts. And I really started seeking out people like me who were going alone and processing a lot of fish alone, because they had a very different process and very different suggestions. So I was looking at what techniques were they using, what hacks were they using, what tricks did they learn to both conserve physical energy, because this is a really intensive activity, and also how they learn to be more efficient. So I started looking around. It turns out you can totally go by yourself. It might be a little bit slower. It also is a little less chaotic because you've got your own system, your own way of doing things. You're on your own schedule. You don't have to negotiate with anybody. You are not going to fight with your partner at the car. There will be no meltdowns, anything like that. Granted, you're the only one doing the work, but that is one of the benefits, that you're also the only one really doing the planning. So then I started thinking, what are other things that are kind of like this that I've done alone, that people typically do in big groups or do together because it's a lot of work, but I have done them alone? Is there anything like that in my history? And I thought about it, and I have processed most of a moose by myself. Moose are huge. Not the quartering and the bringing it back to the house, but almost all of the cleaning. And that turned out really well. And that was the first time I'd ever done that. And I started thinking, what are other things that I do that most people don't do alone? I've done many huge road trips by myself. I moved to Alaska by myself. And I started thinking, I can probably figure this out. This is probably not as complicated as my brain is making it out to be. And you'll notice a turn in my brain, and it's a phrase that you can start using, but not right in the beginning. In the beginning, I think it's easier just to go softly into, what if I'm wrong about this? And what if there is something I don't know? Maybe it is possible. Hey, look, that person, it's possible for that person. Maybe it's possible for me. Oh, look, it's possible for all of these people. There's a totally different method in doing it if you're doing it this way, different things to think about. But in the beginning, you kind of got to sneak up on it like that. So my brain did the turn from, what if I'm wrong about this, to, I can probably figure this out, into like, oh yeah, this is probably possible. There's lots of bits and pieces I need to figure out, but I'm good at logistics. I've run an IT department. I have run the return dog program and Iditarod. I've done big, huge projects that require a lot of teeny tiny little logistics. I can probably figure out dip netting. I can think through this. I can probably figure this out. And you know what? This year can be the dry run where I work things out, sort of a shakeout year. I've been fishing for many years, and this isn't the first time I've ever seen a fish or cleaned a fish or dealt with, cleaned, stored, smoked, canned, all of the things you can do with fish. So really, I'm just adding this one element and it kind of makes it adventurous. And it started very softly turning from this thing that I thought wasn't possible for me into something that was becoming a possibility and became something that started to seem fun. So now I'm in the logistical phase where I'm like, yeah, I love this part of the puzzle, getting all the pieces and parts you need to make it happen, knowing where the maps are and where to go. I got to get my net. Do I need to repair my net? Is it cheaper to repair it or buy it? And once you get there, the planning stops and the winging it stage starts. And that's really my favorite part because that's what I'm really best at. And now it becomes this fun puzzle adventure that I'm trying to solve. So it's got my attention. It's interesting to talk about with friends. Friends are super helpful. They're willing to pitch in. They're happy to give coolers and things that I don't have 3 of yet, because while I might have 1 of each of these things, I don't have enough for an entire limit, like 3 huge coolers. And people are super happy to help. So I want you to take this story and let it marinate in the back of your head. Just put it back in the hopper, let it roll around, and see if it applies to you. See if it applies to where you are in your career or in your career shift. Are there dreams that you have put away that you think aren't possible because of XYZ, because you had kids, because you got married, because your parents are getting older and you have to support them? Anything that you had planned that you were dreaming of that got sidelined by life. And I just want to say your plans and dreams getting sidelined by life is super normal. There's nothing wrong with you. That happens to everybody. I want you to start with the question, what if you're wrong about fill in the blank? So not having your dream career. And see if you can loosen up that knot that is formed around it. It's just something that we're going to start wiggling loose, and see if you can ease into a thought that maybe it's possible that this might be a problem that can be solved. Maybe you can still have the dreams. Maybe you can still go for that career shift that you really want. Maybe you can still have the job you love. It's just that you're going to have to figure it out under these new circumstances, and that's okay. See if you can coax your brain into figuring out this new puzzle, this new adventure, and see if it can be a little more easy in your mind and if it's something that you can't figure out. I hope that helps.